It's 12 o'clock in Frisco, Texas, and it's time for Smoker Broker Radio with Robert Mesh, a.k.a. the Smoker Broker. Robert is the owner of Small World Realty and has employed hundreds of real estate agents in his 17-year career. He has instructed and mentored over 10,000 real estate agents at the highly acclaimed Champions School of Real Estate and is considered an expert in Texas residential realty. Robert is also an advocate of true entrepreneurial spirit and has helped many to transition from corporate America into the world of self-employment. And now live from the studio to your world, the Smoker Broker.
Hey, welcome to Smoker Broker. I'm Robert Mesh, and I am the guy they call Smoker Broker. Happy Thursday to you. Happy spring. Happy Texas spring. And you know it if you live in Texas, because I promised you last night it was a wake-up call that we are now in the spring. Just out of nowhere, we have a swath of a storm that comes through. I don't think half the population even knew there were any issues last night until the sirens start flaring off. It's always fun in Texas when the first siren goes off because, you're not used to hearing it for like 8 months, and then it goes off and you're like, oh God, this again, and it was actually kind of bad last night. There were a couple areas that took pretty decent hits. I will tell you in real estate, that's something that we watch super careful when we have a lot of listings out there, because if you have a large group and teams such as we do, we have listings all across the state of Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, Houston, Austin. And we actually have to be good weather watchers in each of those areas, because we know that if we have any type of house under contract in there, that we could possibly have some problems. And there were a few areas last night that caught some softball and tennis ball size hail. When that happens, you got some damage, and it's going to cause a pause in the transaction. I will tell you also what is an immediate issue, and my buddy George DiGianni is going to come on here in a little bit with me, but he's going to attest to the same thing when it comes to the lending side of this. Right now, we have somewhat of an issue in the fact that we are still dealing with the winter storm problems that are backed up from all the repairs. And the last thing that we need is another storm, and then probably another storm after that. So we could be entering a spring that we have not seen in a long time, where we're really kind of, looking for people that can repair things. And it might not be that easy to do. When that happens, it causes us delays. So we're certainly watching through that. A couple other things I saw this week before we get into our subject today, which you're going to love it today. Today is, we do, the show is always based off of hardcore real estate conversations. And, you notice in the mention of the intro, we always talk about the entrepreneurial side, and Smoker Broker was originally set up to talk about both. And we don't talk about the entrepreneurial side near as much, but I try to bring it on occasionally. And today I'm really excited because the guy I'm going to bring in, he pretty much defines the entrepreneurial side of it. So that's going to be a really great conversation. I think y'all are going to super enjoy it. A couple other things as far as current events go in the past week, the government is starting to consider whether they limit or they start putting, I'm going to call it sanctions on multiple house owners or investors. They have finally come to the conclusion that the American dream is in jeopardy because most first-time home buyers are struggling because there are too many people out there with more cash and it can push them around. And I got to tell you, that's a fine line we walk there. Because I see both sides. I worry about the first-time home buyers. Hell, I worry about the move-up buyer. I think they're getting pushed around. I'm talking about the guy that makes $150,000, $200,000 is being pushed around right now. And when you're in a housing shortage, that can make you breathe a little, heavier, because we just don't know where that takes us. But then you have your investors, which flood the market with a lot of business, and it's good from an income standpoint. Retirement standpoint to have that type of activity in your financial portfolio, and to have limits on it, that's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see if they can pull it off. It's going to be interesting to see if it actually happens, but they are discussing it at this point. And then a quick blurb on with COVID. It does appear that we are trying to get back into the normal side of things. It does. And I think we're almost there. And again, that doesn't mean Those of you who are still supportive that we should be more distant and we should have masks on, that's fine. And no one's disagreeing with you, but there are other people out there that think that they are past it because of their vaccinations, or that they've had it, or that they feel that the herd immunity is there, even though some of the experts say it's not. It is whatever you want to believe it is. But I can tell you, if you drive down any street right now, it does appear that the majority of the American public has decided that they are moving on. The restaurants are full again. The businesses have more cars in it. Interesting enough, this is the first time in a year that I came to the office that I could not find a parking space. It's been a year since that's happened. So I do believe we're moving on, whether you like it or not. That's where we're heading. We've been talking last year about the new norm, but I'm not so sure it's so much of a new norm as it is just an adjusted norm. And I think that's what it is. I do believe it's an adjusted norm. All right. I want to bring in my guest today. This guy has become a really decent friend of mine over the last couple of months. I've got to know him very well. I got to tell you, I meet lots of people out there. My job, affords me that luxury of getting to meet so many different people. But I tell you, this guy and his background, he's very unique. It's hard to find somebody with the skill set that he has. You don't want to call someone like George, and I hate when I talk about someone before I introduce them, but I like to do that sometimes. You don't want to call George a jack of all trades, because to me that sounds like someone but he is like the highest intelligent jack of all trades with all these things he's capable of, because he does completely represent what we're talking about today, which is complete entrepreneurship, and that's what I really, really like about him. He embeds this entire thing. I'm gonna introduce George first, and then let's do the sponsors a little bit later, because I want to get him in on this, because I want him to get started and jump right into this. Guys, I want y'all to meet George DiGianni. He is a fantastic definition of the entrepreneur side. I'm going to let him talk about what he does, where he's at. We have a unique relationship in the fact that he is a big time lender and is a partner of ours. That we are very happy to have, and we highly recommend his mortgage services. But I want him to introduce himself and start talking, because really his stuff is going to be outstanding when it comes to the entrepreneur side. George?
Robert, thanks. I really appreciate it. Yes, you and I have formed a relationship that was not expected. Some people you just really get along with. You can really identify with a past and current situation. First, I want to praise you, because you and your team, especially you and Brenton, are quite successful. That's an understatement. And yet you're taking the time out of your day to mentor, to give back. There are a lot of people in business. I don't care if you're a realtor or what type of business you have. It's great that they can listen to someone like you, and who takes the time, that they don't have the funds to pay for a mentor. They get to hear some tips, and then you get to listen to several other people, and there's a consensus about what entrepreneurship is, the risks, the rewards in that. So I wanted to praise you and say congratulations on you being consistent and giving back, number one.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Number two, I have this, I don't mind being vulnerable and transparent, because I think telling your story and your purpose brings so many more people into you, and I think it adds credibility. So I'm going to run through this real fast.
You don't run through it. You do it. You take it. I guarantee you, everything you're going to be talking about is something that these people want to hear because of the background that you have. So you do what you need to there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I was a cop from the time I was 19 until I was 22. My whole family was in law enforcement, first responders. And I saw enough death. I had a partner killed. I went through the most negative stuff. It was a very, very depressing time in my life. I was a cop in Newark, New Jersey, the scum hole of the earth. And I set the stage that way because my life today, although I've had the entrepreneurial challenges, it couldn't be better. So I move here. I'm gonna cut some things out. I'll leave a lot of holes in the story, but you'll see where I'm going. I had $4,000 as a pension, if you will, from a police officer. You know, I went to college, but they didn't teach me how to fulfill my passion. My passion at the time was health and wellness, and I wanted to make a profound difference in people's lives when it came to their health. And I did that for the last 29 years of living here. So I did that, and I only had a motorcycle. I went through all of my money. I spent it on trade schools. Again, college doesn't teach you how to really do personal training and nutrition and stuff like that. So I did that. And 2 weeks after I got my job at Premier Club as a 1099 employee, okay, we'll talk about that in a moment. So I was self-employed. I had a motorcycle accident, and it wasn't bad. I really didn't get hurt. I banged my knee a little bit, and the guy stops and says, "Let me help you." And I said, "No, don't help me." And it was raining cats and dogs, hardest rain I've ever seen in my life, maybe because I was on a motorcycle. Anyway, and I said, "No, go." I said, "I don't have insurance, just go." He said, "No, I'm going to help you." He stops. He gives me his information. 2 weeks later, I literally have $500 left to my name. 2 weeks later, I get a $7,000 settlement from the insurance company. Well, that set the stage for me to then begin building my business, to stay here in Dallas, made a name for myself. One of my clients was Mark Cuban and Dennis Rodman. I trained Mark Cuban for 6 years, and I built a name. Then I went into consulting. Michael Dell from Dell Computers was my client. I would fly down to Austin twice a week. Dick Smothers, for those of you who are my age or Robert's age or older, I'm 53 now, you know, from the Smothers Brothers. Eli Young, for you country lovers at a younger age, Eli Young Band, and several others. I floated around, made a name for myself. Anyway, in 2005, I decided that I wanted to scale myself. I was tired of the one-on-one sessions. If I didn't work, I didn't get paid. So I created an online company. I made many millions of dollars with that online company. That was in 2005. 2014, at the end of 2014, that company was hacked, and I lost everything. I had $30,000 left to my name. If you can listen to the story and follow suit with what the story is going to entail today, or the topic rather, you're going to see what the challenges are of an entrepreneur. 8 months later, instead of sitting on the sign with a street, excuse me, I'm dyslexic. Instead of sitting on the street with a sign saying I will work for food, 8 months later, I created the vision, the team. I helped raise $3.1 million, and I launched a software company in the genetic space. That did really well. August of 2019, we became profitable. January of 2020, we had a $20 million offer to buy my company. COVID hit. Had to start over. At 52 years old, last year, I became a lender. So for the first time, I pivoted outside of an industry I know like the back of my hand into an industry I knew nothing about. So I share that with you for a couple of reasons. Number one, humility. Number two, to be relatable. Number three, if you're an entrepreneur, I got news for you. Some of this stuff is coming your way and you can't foresee it. Nobody knew about COVID. I'm supposed to be retired, right? Nobody knew that my company was going to be hacked by someone in Bangladesh. So you have to find a way to work through these things. And I'm telling you, I was on my knees. I was afraid. I didn't know what I was going to do. And then without getting into too much more detail, I made it to where I am now. And I'm creating strong relationships with people like Robert Mesh, who recognizes my background, recognizes I have been very successful. I'm doing it again because I have the tools to do it. And what I'm doing now is I'm training realtors, individual realtors, teams of realtors. I trained the entire Briggs Freeman team yesterday on an hour call. This is what I do. I spend my life doing it. You say, George, well, you're a lender. How do you have time for your borrowers? Well, I have a team, right? So I build a team. I have a team that helps support them. I can take on all the borrowers that you can give me. My focus in life is to add value to someone else's life. How can I help you excel beyond your current level of success?
Yeah, that's why I loved I meant what I said when I started this whole thing off, that you define entrepreneurship, because there's so many things in your story that it's not just one aspect, it's all of them. It's starting from very humble roots. It's starting from, having $1 million, not having $1 million. These are the stories that most successful entrepreneurs have. There's very few of them that did not have not only one, but multiple levels of disappointment or failure, which there are differences between the two. Like the Bangladesh thing, it's not a failure, it's a disappointment. And, it just shows how real those types of things are, wire fraud, and it can happen to the best of people. But it does show that most entrepreneurial people, they continue to push forward no matter what they do, no matter what happens to them, no matter where they get kicked, where they get pushed down. They constantly are looking for something else. And, one similarity of the many that you and I have is that constant looking for whatever the next thing is, or whatever something else that can be successful that I can have. I'm a huge fan of constantly looking at what else is out there. What's another income stream? What's another, you can call it a backup, but it's not really a backup to me. It's looking at what opportunities out there. And I don't think I ever stop looking at where there's an opportunity. We, just like you, your side, your focus is on the lending, but you help realtors, you have all these other things. All these things flow together. They all flow, and the epicenter becomes the lending. And for me, it becomes the real estate side of it. But these multiple income streams push through and unite all these people. And that's what I think is a true definition of someone who is an entrepreneur. They continue to find something that they know that they can be successful at, and the confidence. We talk about takeaways on the show. So I'm going to give you one of the biggest, most immediate takeaways right off the bat, is that confidence is huge when it comes to an entrepreneur. You have to be confident in what you're doing. You have to know that no matter what happens, you can succeed. Now, there might be some things that, get in your way, that interfere, like COVID and all those other things that are uncontrollable. But you yourself have to have the confidence under normal operations. You can push through and do well. And if you listen to George's story, and that's what's very unique. There are several times in his life where he goes through and he gets to that down point, and he literally has to start back over. And I don't think, and this is not even knowing George personally long enough, I don't think there's probably ever a time in his life where he hasn't been kicked down and he hasn't just got back up and just done something significantly relevant to those that are surrounding him. He talks about value. So that's something that's big, Keller Williams. Keller Williams, we press value a lot. Value added. That's what we talk about all day long. What do we do that adds value? And that is one of the many things that I thought in George's resume that's outstanding, is that he does seek to give value, because that's what people want. They want someone to add value to them. I mean, everybody does the same thing. Every lender does the same thing. Every banker does the same thing. Every lawn guy does the same thing. It's the value that they add that makes them different than the other person, that makes you intrigued to them. George didn't. I can't remember if he mentioned it in his intro or not, but he's got a pretty interesting background too. The guy's got a degree from Harvard. He's he's an interesting man, and the things he have. And I thought it was, it's funny. We have agents that, majority of the people that watch the show are real estate agents, and they typically are dealing with the real estate topics. And it's funny to hear you come on, and then a lot of them will be watching you. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if this show has at least 1,000 or so people that watch this next week with the pushing that we're going to do with it. But I don't think people realize that when you start talking about names, those aren't name throwings for you. Those are actually people that you've worked with. These are people that you know. I mean, you talk about Cooley, you talk about Dell. These are people that you've gone through, and you were so humble in your intro. There's a lot of things you didn't even mention about yourself, as far as your health, your show that you ran for the longest time. A lot. Some people probably don't realize, although they probably should be able to tell your radio voice. George was on the radio for quite some time. You could have caught him on the ticket. And it's just amazing how even in your intro, you have to cut it short because there's so much that's out there. But I wanted to add to it because I think that flows through with all the entrepreneurial stuff that you're doing. I think that has to go in there. George, something I'm interested with you, when you talk about when you get into your starts and stuff, you talk about getting to be a police officer and all those types of things, but what is it that really pushes you into where you think, I think all entrepreneurial people have something inside them. There's something that makes them tick that everybody else doesn't have. There's something unique about them. What do you feel that it is with you? What gets you that way? You're not born that way. That's not how you're born. These are skills that are developed. So where do you think you got that spark that makes you constantly look for something else?
So I want to be a little incongruent with you on one of your points you made about being confident. You first you said you need to be confident in what you do, which I agree with, and I'll expand upon. And then you reiterated it and you said you need to be confident, ... Well, the people that I know who are the most successful are often the most insecure, but they're the most confident in what they know about their business. The insecurity is what drives them to do more, to have more, to be better. They lose relationships because their focus is business, to be the biggest and the best. And I've gone through that many times. I've never been married. I'm 53. Why? Because my priority was always about business. And every time I was going to retire, I was going to settle down. Well, that didn't happen. So being confident is extraordinarily important, but not necessarily being confident in yourself. It's being confident in your abilities, your capabilities, and your desire to have the success that you deserve. It's great to be confident in ourselves, but most people don't have that. So if you can't find a way to muster that up, then at least be confident and an expert in what you do in business.
So I agree with that. I do think there are some people that, so I think there are two different people that fall into that group. I do think that there are those that are driven by that they're insecure and they want expertise in something. And when they expertise in something, it makes them feel comfortable and then they excel. And I do believe there are others out there that just whatever they do, they've always had success and they continue to push that same button. It's the same blend. I think the same thing drives them. That's an interesting take. I've never heard someone say it like that. And that's interesting. That'll make me actually think for quite some time about that, because I actually believe there's a lot of truth to, I mean, if you look at it from a common sense standpoint, that is, as someone who does worry about the rest of the things that involve their life, if they know they're good at something, they might actually tell everybody, well, I suck at that, but I'm really good at this and I'm better than anybody else out there. And maybe that is what drives them. So that's an interesting take. I like that.
And so the other thing I want to expand
upon,
the other thing I want to expand upon, because I've not answered your question, but the reason I've been able to come back each time is because I have the tools to do it. Yes, I went to Harvard Business School. I have the tools to do that. But what I'm doing is I've created this consultation session where I'm giving back to realtors. I don't want to make you a better realtor because I don't know how to do that. I know how to make you the best business person you can possibly be. And I impart my knowledge, my experience, and my tools on you so you can do that. So I wanted to share real fast about 1099, what I mentioned in the beginning, Robert. If you're a 1099 employee, you're not an employee. You're a business owner. You own a business. You're not only self-employed, you own a business. Because I don't think many people, especially if you've entered real estate, recognize that they've decided to become a business owner. Yeah. I believe people who decide to become a 1099 business owner, if they were to research what that means, what they signed up for, they may not have taken that path. Now, ignorance can be bliss to some extent. It also can be a curse. So, Mark, if you don't mind, can you pull up that slide I sent you, please? So if everybody can see that slide, this is what an entrepreneur's life is like. In the beginning, you're excited. Ignorance is bliss. You didn't do a whole lot of research, or you did, but you didn't see what you didn't know. And all of a sudden, reality sets in. You go to the bottom of that curve, you see, oh my God, this is what I signed up for. And then you start to get some success. You get some traction. You say, wow, it's working. And then all of a sudden, there's this mess up. You weren't aware of something, you made a wrong decision, and everything declined, and you're upset with yourself. And then you have to have a ramp up, you regather your thoughts and your strategy and so on. And you say, wow, I've given up the good, I'm great, I'm doing really well. And then all of a sudden, COVID hits, or you get hacked, and you think, oh my God, I'm going bankrupt. And then you start to pull yourself up again. You say, wow, I'm really good. I don't know why I get so down on myself. Everything is great. And then you go back down again. Oh my God, I was wrong. I'm not doing well. What's going on? And then you come back up again. You see where it says, well, let's wait a second. My life really, really is good. And that perspective is something you need to know that you're going to experience as an entrepreneur. So I have more, but I'll talk about traits of an entrepreneur in a moment. But I wanted to give it back to you, Robert.
Yeah, I love your. I got some guys that are watching on the other side, and I'm joking with them. I'm like, his graph does like this, and then I said at the bottom it says it sucks. So, and there's truth to that. I don't think if you're not open about the prosperity and the negative side of it, you have to really be extreme, because I think in any time you're talking about entrepreneurship, you're talking about two polar opposites. You are talking about great success. You're talking about great failure. I mean, all the massive companies, all the great inventors of everything, that none of them will have the story where they didn't say that they just did something so stupid the time before until they found what really it was that made them tick. I like your conversation about the 1099 because, we deal with that a lot, inside of Keller Williams, inside the regional teams that we have. We push that big time, that they own their own business, and that we are a support mechanism to them. We are supporting what it is that they do so that they can do that business. And, one of the brilliances of any type of real estate broker, but especially someone of the caliber of Gary Keller, is that he opens his house to say, well, you can have all my stuff, mi casa, su casa, but you can run your business the way you want to. And for the most part, that's what he does. He lets the entire Keller Williams industry run through and run their business using his thing. So they are 1099. They are individuals. They are running their own business, though. And I think it's hard for the newer ones. And we do have a huge audience that is our new agents. There are a lot of people, especially in the Keller Williams in the state of Texas. I mean, our show, we have people across the country that watch it, but the focus is really in the state of Texas. We have a lot of new agents that watch that. And I think sometimes they fail to see that it is a business they're running. They're so caught up in getting started and being new to this whole thing that they want to learn, but they don't realize that it's their business. And I guess, to be fair, that's a hard thing to ask of somebody, to learn how to do it and run your own business, and they're doing it at the same time. Mark Twain has a comment where he talks about the secret about getting started is, in fact, getting started. I think a lot of those guys, when they get in there, that's what happens to them. But they really are starting. They go in to learn, and they're becoming an entrepreneur in the same time. And that's hard. That's hard for a lot of people. I think
Robert, a testament to you and your team. I think it's, again, back to perspective. It's not as hard as if you sit down and write a business plan and you're going to open a brick and mortar or do some online business, and it's only you. Your team has so much support that they can ask you questions every single day about something that's trivial or not. And maybe that's why, I'm just guessing, maybe that's why some people don't feel self-employed, because they have so many people around them. But you do need to have that fear inside that says, oh my God, I've taken on this risk, this financial risk. I am self-employed. I have a business. But what you provide is not something most business owners get.
Well, so you're right. And that's what we try to tell people when they come in. I think they think it's some type of sales gimmick that we're doing, but we tell people that, look, real estate is by far the lowest overhead business that you'll ever get into, that you have the chance to generate the income that you possibly could. It's a fact. I mean, the average real estate agent is in less than $2,000 when it's all said and done, with everything it takes to get into this. That is a third of their first commission. A third of their first commission pays for every damn thing it took for them to get started. And then after that, it's all extra. So we do talk about people that it's a unique situation in real estate. It is different. We're not going out there, mixing some type of chemical or having some type of tech app where we have to put $1 billion into it. We're not at that type of risk. We don't have that. And that's why, and the reason why I'm making that an emphasis here is for the real estate agents, you're the lucky ones. You're the fortunate ones. You don't have to have the R&D and all this other stuff that these people are putting money into. My buddy George over here, he's talking about putting millions of dollars into something and hoping that it works. And that's a risk. You guys are the lucky ones. You're starting an entrepreneurship where you're not even having the hardest core risk that a lot of people have. Now, don't get me wrong. You still have risk. I mean, the biggest risk is, and it's more on the emotional side, is the risk of failure, is that you won't be as good as you think you will, or you can't succeed with it. So there's risk in every single thing we do. It just depends on how you break it out, whether it's financial or whether it's emotional.
So I'd like to just run through a few traits of an entrepreneur. Do you mind?
No. Seeing how you're an expert in it, I would like to hear it.
So an entrepreneur has a deep desire to be freed from the structured environment that they maybe worked in or did not want to work in, where you have no input.
Don't get me started.
I'm sorry?
Don't get me started on that.
Yeah.
That's how I got here.
Yeah. So you don't have input. You don't feel appreciated. You don't have the ability to control your destiny. You're also a person who is naturally motivated, and you're open to learn every role in a business. You wear every single hat. You push the broom, you do the finances, you're open to it. Even if it's not your forte, you're open to learning, and you need to learn as much as you possibly can. You have a deep desire to create a better mousetrap. You're a natural problem solver, an innovator of goods, if you will, services, procedures. And if you're in real estate, you need to be a problem solver. This is one of the things I teach about distinct competencies. How do you uniquely solve my problem? I don't want my problem to be mine. My problem should be your problem. I want to go off and do my own thing. How do you solve my problem of finding a home? I want to find a home in 5 hours. Can you do it? Yes or no? Yes, I can do it. Okay, how will you do it? How do you uniquely solve my problems? Also, as an entrepreneur, you have to be open to financial risk and face growth challenges with abandon. Now, Robert, a couple of times you talk about failures and what I've gone through. Now, you weren't pointing that to me, but I just want to express that. I don't see myself as gone through failures. If I look at my resume, I say, wow, that's an impressive resume. I've been successful. I've had major challenges along the way. And then the last
Brent's back here. He said I was talking to him about failures.
Yeah. And so then the last two here is that you wake with purpose and direction. If you're an entrepreneur, you better have purpose and you better have direction. You can't have direction without knowing your purpose. You can't have direction without knowing your clarity. You can't have the right action items without being clear of who you are and the direction you're going. And lastly, you're self-motivated. If you've identified and follow your purpose, then there's no need to worry about being motivated because you're following your purpose.
Well, and I think that that's the number one thing we look at. I mean, any type of leadership position, any type of recruiting position, any type of management position, we're always looking for, is that person self-motivated? Do we believe that they can take the tools that we give them and execute to the level that we think they can? I would tell you anytime that I've ever put anybody in any type of management position, they better have that motivational side to them and they better have the attitude side to them. Those two things are the key. Can
you define the attitude side?
Yeah, I can, because it's something my father taught me years ago and it's embedded into me. And I still think it's the number one competency that I have that has made me, I mean, I guess if someone says successful, I hate talking about myself success-wise, but if there is, that's the one that's done it. And when I talk about attitude, I'm talking about having an open mind to everything, having a positive attitude, no matter who comes in the door. Now that can change to the level they want to, but as far as the beginning part of it, it's always an optimistic view of looking at what can happen, what can we do, what is the way to excel, what is the way to treat other people, the way to talk to other people, how do they view you as a person, do they view you as someone who cares, are you empathetic? These are all things that are embedded to me in the daily things that I do. Everything that I do, I would tell you that it's a strength and a weakness. We talk about SWOTs all the time. A weakness of me is I probably hope the better for everybody, and I hope everybody is okay, and I hope the things that I do are making them feel good and that they're not upset or that I haven't included them in something. And I think that's hard because I think when you embrace a good attitude, you want everybody to be around you. You want them to be happy and you want them to have the opportunities. And for me, the attitude excels those things. The attitude excels all those things. If you have a good attitude, it's very hard to have negative consequences. Now, that doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but it means the chances are much less with those types of people. And you know these people with bad attitudes. You can see it when they walk in. You can usually sense someone who has a bad attitude literally 30 seconds into a conversation. You can just tell by their tone. You can just tell by the way they talk. And if I'm not mistaken, that's what they do say from the personal side of it. It takes less than 30 seconds to identify someone who has that. Now, look, I talked about my father who taught me that. And sometimes I get confused with attitude and discipline and work ethic, because those are the three things. If you have my on it, that's work ethic, attitude, and discipline. Those are the three things. And I kind of blend them. My father is the former assistant inspector general for the Department of Transportation in the Bush and Clinton administration. So basically the second highest auditor in the country. And, I come from an accounting background. I worked with the executive team at Foot Locker, Foot Action USA, and Just for Feet. But I was taught very early on, my mother too, for that matter, that my attitude better be superior when I'm around somebody else. And I got to admit, I feel a tad bit of challenge, not failure, in my life right now with my kids as they're growing up, because I do sense that I don't think I'm presenting the attitude part good enough for them, because I think sometimes they have a lousy attitude, and I think that means that I'm failing at it. And then there's the other side that they're kids and they're teenagers and it's hard to control them. But it was instilled to me many years ago that I was to be very respectful when I was younger to someone who is an adult. I was always told to work very hard at everything I did. I was told to work from a very young age. I've been working since I was 15 years old, and I've never stopped. 15 years old, I've been working. I've been supervising people since I was 17 years old. I worked with the Kroger folks, worked my way through school. I probably had 130 people under me then, and I still to this day do now. And the reason why I say that is because it was the attitude that was instilled in me to work with those people. I've always said that no matter who's in front of me, I can bring myself to their level and discuss and be on the same plane with them, as long as they're going to be respectful as to what I'm telling you. And I guess that's really kind of where I'm summing that up, is that attitude really does go down to that respect level. That's something my dad and my mom taught me a long time ago, is to be very respectful of somebody, right up to the point that they did not deserve that respect because they did something so awful. But to me, that's what drives that attitude. And I do believe it's everything. I've got people that I put in the highest positions that work with me, that their reason they're there is more their attitude than their specialties and anything else. That attitude can get past just about any other negativity that they do, any other lacks that they have, anything that they have that's not superior. It can get past anything if they have that. And that's a terrible failure right now.
I'm right here, right?
And Brent's right. Brent's right here. He's one of, but he knows, he laughs when he says that. He knows I'm proud of him because he does resemble everything that I would hope.
I wasn't laughing.
Yeah, he wasn't laughing. I don't think Brent realizes sometimes there are hundreds of managers that I've had with me and directors that I've had with me, and I put him up as the highest one because of his attitude. And those are the things to me that drive this world. The corporate world, you mentioned it a little while ago. It's awful. The corporate world can be terrible the way it spits someone out and chews somebody out, and the attitude that goes in there on a daily basis. 80% of the people that go into a corporate job cannot stand it. They are there because they have to be. And that is the worst problem in this country, if you ask me. We talk about having mental health issues and everything drives back to it. Sucks to get up and go to a job that you're not the one that it's benefiting. It's benefiting somebody else. And you go there, you try to have a good attitude, but it's almost impossible. So for me, that's what drives all this stuff. That attitude piece of it is everything to me. Everything.
So it's infectious. And I want to go to your kids for a moment. children learn by example, not by what you tell them. So as long as you're leading by example, it'll rub off on them. Right now, they're full of hormones and they think they know everything. Another thing is we talk about how you want to be represented. When it comes to your brand, which is you have to identify what you want your brand to be represented. How do you want to be represented? So if you were to ask a bunch of people what they see you as when it comes to your brand, you might not get the response you want. But then what are the changes you have to make to make sure you align with what you want your brand to be represented by? And that's really important. So your brand is you, not about real estate. It's not about the business. Your brand is you. EQ. So when it comes to managing expectations, EQ, emotional intelligence, we have those people. I believe the number is 10 seconds, Robert. You meet someone, within 10 seconds what their attitude is like, at least for that moment, not necessarily forever. Maybe they got cut off. They had a day on the way to the office, whatever that is. But if there's a consistency there, then I call them energy vampires. And these are the people,
that's good. I like that.
The people that always have something wrong, right? They got a ticket, someone backed into their car, they had a late bill, they couldn't get to work on time. These are the people that always have something go wrong in their life and they don't understand why. And that's the subconscious mind. Whatever you think about, you bring about. And it's real important for people to know that. And one of the things I share in my seminars, even in my one-on-one and team in-person trainings, is that when it comes to people listening to you, going back to your children again, and your children or even everyone that you oversee at work because you feel akin to them, is that people who like you will listen to you, but people who respect you will take action.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't recognize that. Maybe you got into real estate and you're excited about it and you're telling your family, hey, I'm in real estate if you know anybody, and your friends, and doing all that networking. And all of a sudden, someone in your family or a friend uses someone else. They didn't use you because they don't respect you in this industry. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. They like you. But what homework, what research have you done to become respected in this industry? Well, George, I work hard. Okay. If you persistently work hard and you're moving away from your goals, then you consistently get the same things that you don't want.
Yeah, my dad used to say a washing machine works hard.
Yeah. So, you can work hard, but if you don't have clarity, direction, action items, milestones, and goals, then what direction are you going and why should you be successful? Why should I let you buy or sell my home? How are you different than 140,000 realtors in Texas? What makes you different?
You're right about the respect level too. I can't stand
when I see on social media looking to buy or sell a home, call me. Why?
Right.
Why should I call you?
Or the mailer that thousands of people get saying Happy July 4th or whatever. We preach that to guys all the time. Don't waste money.
It's a waste of paper. Yeah. You need to be intelligent, but since you have a team of people, you have a marketing team, you have your CPAs, and most people who are entrepreneurs don't have that luxury. These people should be leveraging the assistance they have under your guise because it can really help them with marketing. Now, if you have a marketing person who isn't telling these people about the right marketing message, this is something that's something I love doing with content. This is what I do with referral partners also. So when I train an individual or a team, you can send me all your marketing content before you print it, and I'll let you know what needs to change, give you my input, and you can go to town and run with it. And I've done that with several people. I mean, I even have one. So you can say, I'll find your dream. I'll find your dream home in 10 homes or less. Otherwise, I'll turn you over to another realtor. That's a compelling buyer proposition. The most compelling one. It has integrity. It has a number to it. It has confidence. Now, think about this, the postcards, right? If you put that buyer value proposition on there and then your picture and your contact information, nothing else. What do you have in the background, Robert? What's left?
There's no different than anybody else.
It's white space, right?
Yeah.
You have your value proposition. You have your picture and content and contact info over here. You have white space.
You hope you have your value, but you hope you at least have that.
No, my point is this. When you get the cards in the mail, it has a picture of a house and it has all these numbers and these things and why you should use me and it's a bunch of noise and fluff. It goes in the garbage. But if you have a value proposition and just your contact information on there, and you have a big white background, and I mean big letters in your value proposition.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I got you. You're actually saying it a different way. Yeah, you're saying that. I'm saying that it's a blank statement in there, but you're saying that's what it should be with the value right there, that you want the value emphasized.
You want to share your profound value proposition, your contact information, and if nothing else is on that background, it's just white, then I'm going to see that. Why? Because it's not so unbelievably busy like all of the other tens of thousands of cards that come in the mail.
Yeah, I do love the ads that I've seen before that mimic that. You've seen those ads that are just, they have nothing. You tend to focus on them more because you're looking at what is it that they have in there. You know, it's funny. I don't know why I'm putting this as a similarity to it, but there are some people on Facebook that have in their profile, they draw a line and it looks like a hair or a piece of dust. So when their profile, these are my jerk friends, by the way. When you go to their profile, you sit there, you're trying to clean off but it's part of it. And then they're laughing because that's what it's so simple though. You're focused in on it. So right. There's an annoyance and a brilliance to it as well. So yeah, there's a lot of
the brilliance here, Robert, and this is really important. The brilliance is first to identify your customer. Identify your customer, not all customers, your customer. Who are the people? What are your core values? All the stuff that I teach people, and make sure they align with who you're looking for. And once you do that, you then market to them in a manner that they want to see it. So let me give you a fast case study example from Harvard Business School. eBay, everybody knows eBay, wanted to compete in China. So they went out to China and they were trying to compete against Alibaba. They lost their butts. They lost, I don't even know how much money it was. It's been so long that I was in school, but they lost a lot of money and they pulled out. They pulled out because they tried to impart their way of doing the American business
in a Chinese environment and a Chinese
culture, on a culture that has a completely different look. Now, if you go to Alibaba or any business website in China, it's blinging here, it's dinging there. It's like being in a casino, and that's a direct reference because the Chinese are big gamblers. They love all of that stuff. But if it's not busy like eBay and it's actually easy to navigate for us and our culture, then that's boring to them. It failed miserably.
Yeah.
You can't do a blanket market. You need to know who you're marketing to and if they're going to watch and listen.
Yeah, that's a great example too. I don't think it's amazing how many Americans don't even know what Alibaba is. I'm like, well, it's pretty much the equivalent to what powers Amazon and is Amazon and the other side of the world, and that's creeping over this way. And it has billions of dollars invested. It's amazing how many people don't even acknowledge its existence. You know, if it wasn't for the fact that they don't get along with the Chinese government, it'd be scary what they are capable of doing with them. So it's an interesting, especially to something as big as eBay. You know,
so just a real fast stat for you. Jack Ma, who is the founder of Alibaba, he's worth, however, $10-20 billion now. Yeah. He applied for Harvard 10 times and he was turned down every time.
It's amazing.
So back to your attitude, your perspective statement that you made earlier. You don't have to be the smartest guy. You have to know how to problem solve, what your sweet spot is, what your purpose is, and make sure there's a market for it, and you'll be successful.
Well, like even for you, though, I'll tell you, even in a personal assessment of you, to me, your Harvard degree is so freaking impressive, but it's your work ethic and your directness and your enthusiasm. To me, that is extremely more valuable than any degree. We have people that come through that interview with us that tell us they have a degree from Princeton, SMU, and I'm like, have you ever worked retail? Because retail, that's something that's probably a higher bid for me. It's amazing. You're right. The people still have to have the personality skills and the drive. The education can only be a piece of it. Certainly helps to have it, but it's
Can I give you another story about one of my classmates?
Yeah.
All right. So this is another part of the entrepreneurial mention from earlier where I said when some of the traits of being an entrepreneur, you have to have passion. So be passionate about what you believe. So identify what you firmly believe, what you're passionate about, and then have the courage to do something about it. So that's part of being an entrepreneur. Have purpose and then intent. So I'll share this with you. One of my classmates in Harvard Business School moved here with his brother. They both had $5 in their pocket each. Their father gave them $5 each. That's all they had. They went and worked and did the lowest level job you can find, or one of them, and they worked for a car wash company just drying off cars. Okay? So they worked there for a period of time, whatever the period of time is. Then they decide to go work at, I think, a convenience store. So they got the next level up. It was nothing big, but they felt strong with being in sales. So they went to work for a trucking company in the brokerage side, which is obviously sales, brokering trucks to go from one area, pick something up, drop it off to another area, and they make monies brokering the deal. They worked there for a while. They did okay. I don't know what okay is, but they kept finding this niche that the company was missing. The company didn't listen to them because they were lower level people, just salespeople, right? By the way, people who make most amount of money in the world are salespeople, right? So even if you're Elon Musk, you're always selling, you're in sales. Anyway, so they decide to max out their credit cards and buy one truck, $18,000 at the time. They go buy one truck, they start fulfilling that niche, and they start moving supplies from manufacturer or supply house, distribution place, to the hospital. They only focus on hospitals. Back in 2012, the company's worth $400 million. Today, the company's worth $1 billion, $5 in their pockets each.
You just have to have the idea and the execution and the motivation to do it.
Passion, the desire to succeed, the work ethic, the intent, the focus, the clarity of what you want, see the vision and move in that direction.
Yeah, so that's why I love all those things combined. And I still think that all those things combined are the essential core of the traditional entrepreneur. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to summarize a lot of things today. One, it should be obvious to the viewers that we have out there and that watch on archive, this conversation can go on forever, and it will continue to go on as we will continue to bring George on throughout in other episodes throughout the year, because we do try to focus on some of the entrepreneurial stuff. But it just shows no matter what, this is an ongoing conversation. Even if we focus on pure topics and break it down, we can actually take one topic and break it down in an hour for entrepreneurial things. So that's going to be something that we move forward. Today was a real overview just of our beliefs in the entrepreneurial system, and one to encourage those of you, especially the real estate agents out there, that you are in the right profession, you are doing the right thing. You just need to embrace that it is your business and that you need to start dealing with it like that. And the sooner you start acting like that, the more reality it's going to become, the more real it's going to become that you are your own business owner. So that was just one step into start preparing people for the entrepreneurial side, and what's really a good conversation for anybody out there. All right, I want to make sure before we go, we always like to thank our sponsors in there. Normally I do it at the front and the end, but I wanted to really get George in there. Usually my intro is a lot longer, but I wanted George to jump in. So I want to make sure that we thank our sponsors. You know, it's really, it doesn't cost very much to sponsor on this show. We do have an average of anywhere from 400 to 1,000 people that actually watch the show that are in the core of real estate and that do take a lot of advice from us. So it's really a good place to be a sponsor on. Brent, can you go ahead and tell them a couple of the sponsors? And then we're going to let George is actually one of our most new sponsors. He just came on not too long ago, and we're going to run a spiel for him here at the end after we do the other two. All right, go ahead.
All right, guys. So for those of you who know, your favorite co-host has been relegated to being off camera because Robert tells me if I don't close $1 million in sales every week, that I will no longer be allowed to be in front of the camera. So I'm off camera here.
That's correct. Punishment.
Our sponsor, Mr. Martin Cooley with BPG Inspections. He is our go-to home inspector. We, of course, always give our clients a number of inspectors to choose from, but Martin is the inspector that we prefer. He is always on time or early, finishes in a timely manner, gets the report to you the same day, and all reports are color-coded, red for serious issues and blue for minor things that we need to look at. You can always book him at bpginspections.com or reach him at 817-401-3240. Our second sponsor is Mr. Greg Holdberg with Liberator Health Insurance. Your simple solution to affordable healthcare is here. Join the Liberator movement and take control of your healthcare. $5 million lifetime maximum per policy. Customize your healthcare plan to fit your healthcare and budget needs. Use any doctor or hospital without a penalty. For additional savings, use the PPO network at no additional charge. Teledoc is included in all plans. Save 40 to 60% on your premiums. An independent agency, Liberator is committed to transforming healthcare in Texas through innovative healthcare plans that are affordable and rich in benefits, just like me. For more information and to get a quick quote, call or text Greg Holdberg, Independent Health Insurance Broker, at 214-886-4688 or visit them at liberatorhealthinsurance.com.
Hi, this is George DiGianni. Did you know in 2018 there were 120,000 realtors in Texas? That's the most Texas realtor population they've ever seen. 2 years later, 2020, there are now 140,000 realtors in Texas. Have you taken time to consider what sets you apart from all of your other competitors? Why should a prospect choose you? Well, I'm the only mortgage lender that will help you excel beyond your current level of success by incorporating both my Harvard academic knowledge and my 29 years of business prowess in a consultative session that is free to you. I will impart my knowledge about the business fundamentals you may not have been exposed to in the past. How do we do this? Get in touch with me today, George at sublimefinancial.com.
Yeah, I love it. I want to thank all of our sponsors. Like I said, they're what make the show tick. I want to thank my buddy George. It has been a pleasure. We talk about life and the people that we meet and the people that we encounter and the people that we run into. Yours is definitely one that has been enthusiastic for me, and I look forward to continuing to grow that relationship with you. I want to thank you for being on the show. We are definitely going to continue doing this down the road too on other shows, so hopefully you'll be open to that. But once again, I really do appreciate our business partnership and looking forward to that as we continue to grow it. I want to thank everybody else out there for watching. Again, great show for any of the new realtors out there trying to get started. A great show to send to somebody else. This is, again, George, a very humble guy. This is something that a lot of people pay for to listen to him. This isn't something that he's just doing for the run of the mill. So hopefully you appreciate the fact this is being offered to you for free today on our show. I wanted to make sure you understood the importance of having someone like that on this particular show and that you take that with you. But good show for anybody who's focusing on motivation, entrepreneurship, wants to start something new. Great show for you to watch. You guys have a great week. We'll catch up with y'all next week.
Thanks, Robert.
Uh-huh.